Okay, folks, first of all, thank you very much. I mean, I know it's never easy to come out weekday, but Harish was here. He's part of this whole COEP advisory group. So when he said he's going to be here, I said we must catch him for time. And he was kind enough to not only be here this evening, but stay on and do a session for the Rotary Clubs tomorrow. So thank you, Harish. Let me start by giving a very personal introduction of Harish. I started my career in the 80s as an industrial engineer working in a manufacturing company called Crompton Greaves, not far from here, Nasik. And since I was the first person in that company who had some pretense of understanding computers, they quickly said, I'm going to be managing computers. So I said, okay, let me figure that one out. And 2 years later, we were on the hunt for a mini computer. We used to be this very big ICL shop in Crompton. But they said, let's buy a mini computer and do production planning, etc., etc. And that was the time we started looking at the HCL and PSI and Inditron, etc. And that was the first time I walked into Harish's office in Churchgate in Bombay, which I'm sure some of you have been to. And I was thoroughly impressed, because here's a person who was sophisticated, urbane, talked to me about what I should be looking for. And I said, look, if I'm going to buy from one company, in spite of all the complicated process of Crompton Greaves, it has to be Inditron. So I kind of decided in my mind. So everything is going fine, and I still remember, Harish, I mean, the price of that mini computer, the SN23, was I think some 22.5 lakhs, and we negotiated, brought it down to 21.5. And I'm like all set to go to my board, because 21.5 was this thing and PSI was some 22, and I said, done. The day before I'm going to my board meeting, in true HCL style, if I may call it that, I get a call from the guy who was selling computers from PSI. I said, what price will you buy it from us at? I said, look, he's given me a price of 21. So I said, let me give him a half price. So I said, 10.5 lakhs. He says, done, take it. I'll never forget Dinesh Puri. Dinesh Puri had all his HCL background coming through in that deal. And there is no way I could have gone back to my organization and said, look, can't be done. So I still tell, I'll give it a try. So I remember Harish wasn't there at that day. And Harish, you don't know this story. So I went back to Inditron and I met Harish's partner, Praveen Gandhi. Most of you know Praveen, right? And I told Praveen this story, so like, I really want to buy from you guys, but what do I do? So I still remember Praveen said, it was around 12:30. He said, tomorrow, in my room, mein aao, khana khilate. We had this nice guju food. And he said, let me tell you one thing, young man. This is the first and last free lunch you will ever get. If you think buying a 10.5 lakh computer is going to give you a free lunch, all the best. So, but I had to do it, I had no choice. Since then, I mean, I started hobnobbing with Harish. I remember he had a long chat with me once, saying that, look, if you like computers, why are you wasting your time being the EDP manager of some manufacturing company to whom IT will always be second class thing? Just move it to the IT sector. So he kind of encouraged me to set up, do a startup, then I joined NIIT, and then he sent this other young man after me, and we'll talk about this other young man called Harish Mehta. And Devang chased me and said, this was 1994, and said, you've got to come into NASCOM. So Harish was, I mean, singularly responsible for getting me into NASCOM, probably getting me to become chairman of NASCOM in 2008. Then just when I was saying, okay, now my work for NASCOM is done, Harish reminded me that places like NASCOM, TiE are lifelong commitment. So he got me to run NASCOM Foundation for 3 years. And TiE, I mean, I joined TiE in Mumbai as a charter member. Again, it was the time when Harish just started. So my entire career has touches of Harish Mehta. And if there's one person who continues to inspire me, so when Mandar said, look, can we get Harish? I said, of course. And then I said, my condition is I have to do this talk show. Because I have to ask Harish a lot of things I'd like to know in the next 1 hour. And of course, give all of you an opportunity to understand what makes Harish Mehta Harish Mehta. What has he achieved? What is his inspiration? What keeps him ticking? I mean, even today, he's the most enthusiastic member of the NASCOM Executive Council. Okay, he and I were together in Kalimpong 2 weeks back, and he's always going to be there. So I think, what makes him the driving force? So let me maybe ask a few questions to Harish, and we will kind of go on for maybe half an hour. If any of you have a burning question based on what I ask or what he says, just lift up your hand. We can always do an interrupted session. Otherwise, we will be good boys like TiE, and we will talk with each other for some time and then throw it over. Whichever you want. I'm a trainer by profession, so any interruptions are most welcome on this. So Harish, let me start by asking you, tell us a story. Where did you grow up? what inspired you? I mean, I know you from the Hindutron days. Was there a story before that? So just tell us the story of Harish Mehta up to Hindutron. Then we'll go from here.
First of all, one of my strengths is pass the ball to the person who can make the goal. So all the stories that Ganesh talked about, I see in him that passionate, competent, energetic individual. So whenever the right opportunity I see, I'll pass the ball to Ganesh. So with I remember when NASCOM Foundation was hardly 2 to 3 crore top line, and we wanted to scale it up. And I think he was just coming out of Zensar or something, and they said, I'll be very happy to take it up. And in 3 years, he took the top line from 3 crores to 50 crores.
Wow.
That's his contribution. And he has been continuous. My job is to look for individuals who are passionate. Somebody talked to me about Rajiv Vaishnav, same way. I'm such a passionate, intelligent individual. So when we started TiE in India, Mumbai, so I handed over the TiE patent to Rajiv. I see 16 chapters now for TiE in India. Phenomenal growth. So coming back to my story, and there may be many, many stories, but it was I did my bachelor's in electrical engineering from Pune. Went to USA to do my master's in electrical control systems. My roommate had just done master's. He was a computer science graduate from Brooklyn Poly. He was Sardarji. And he says, "Pagal ho gaya kya bhai, tum electrical control system kar raha hai? Computer ka din aaya hai." Now in those days, in COEP, no one knew what computer is. We had some little bit knowledge of, like somebody showing us a punch card with some holes, saying that's information. That's all we knew about computers. I called my father, he says, he didn't know anything, so I can't advise you. Anyway, but then, talking to a few friends around, I selected computers as my discipline to get into it. And I zeroed in on the hardware side, and then my professor wanted me to do PhD. I took partly PhD also. Then I said, no, I would prefer to go work, and then started looking for a job. Couldn't find a job. And finally I found one job with a traveler's insurance company, where I got a job as a COBOL programmer. And in those days, they were saying that even you can teach a monkey to write a COBOL program in 7 days. But job is a job. I mean, when you want to make your 2 ends meet, you have certain options. And you get love letters from IBM to all other great hardware companies. So you end up taking a job as a COBOL programmer with Travelers Insurance Company. And grew extremely fast in terms of multiple promotions or whatever you call it. My wife joined me, and then both of us tried our best to integrate ourselves with the US society. We became active in number of local, whatever reason, we just could not integrate. And we said, yeah, we'll go back to India. And meanwhile, I had a green card also. And then after we started buying 220-volt appliances in USA on the plan that we will go back to India. When the D-Day came, everyone in USA said, are you mad? You're doing so well, both of you. Why do you want to go back to India? What is there for you in India? It was emergency days in India. And I said, I mean, listen, emergency at a very 50,000 feet level. Me, to us, my family, our social life, and what I do is more important. We came back, everyone here said, why did you come? And I tore up the green card. He said, that's a gateway to paradise. Are you stupid? I said, listen, I have decided to come back, and if I have this umbilical cord, I will have that temptation to go back to US. So I need to figure out a way and settle down here, whatever best that one can do. Then I started looking for business, coming from business community, started looking for business opportunity. So my father's business was film distribution. And I met some of those people. I said, oh my God, there's no way in the world. Here is a so-called computer science, database expert wanting to do this. Then I looked at my father-in-law's business. He was in two-wheeler parts manufacturing. They took me to Kanjur Marg in Bombay. I don't know, anyone of you have been there or not? Yeah, I saw those galas. I said, oh my God, I have not come back from USA to work in these galas. Then my cousin said, Harish, you go back, you're not going to succeed in India. I said, why are you saying it? He says, you're a very straightforward person. In India, every businessman around you either will do excise story, customs story, income tax story. When you do not know the input cost of your competitor, how are you going to survive? So that made me thinking. These are all very great inputs. And I decided to enter the technology business. That's how I ended up. Then of course, when I looked for a tech business, met Hinditron and became a business partner. So that's the story before Hinditron days.
Then what happened, Harish? I mean, we all know about the Onward story and Onward novel and everything else. So what was that those stages of your journey all the way to setting up Onward till, of course, today your son is doing a great job taking it over. So what's been the story of that?
In Hinditron, I mean, we started the first data center in India, which was terminal driven, which is a big risk we had taken. Even the money that we borrowed from ICICI, which was hardly 13 lakhs in those days, but there was no foreign exchange cover available, hedging available. And we had borrowed money in Swiss franc, German, and Japanese yen. And all these three currencies kept on going up. And rupee kept on. So 13 lakhs, we ended up paying ICICI 26 lakhs plus interest. It had become like a Kaila's magic water, keeps water coming out, and you have to keep repaying our installments to ICICI those days. But we made and then we had made a wrong decision in selecting that computer. We imported a computer called PDP-11 with the running RISTUS operating system. PDP was extremely successful in the scientific, and then digital came out with a product for commercial marketplace. They called it RISTUS E-driven product. So we brought that, we thought this is a great product and why not we do business around it. So we started running data center operations, but the product was just not designed for commercial work. There were like simple things like COBOL compiler was missing, batch processing which you require in data center, that was missing. We will collect data from Vulcan level here, take it to Bombay and do the processing. But if the system power failure or X, Y, and Z, you restart. So all kinds of challenges were there. So we said, how do we make this RISTUS as a commercial operating system? So we entered the software product business. I'm going back to mid-80s. But then we realized serious challenges of taking the product out. The Reserve Bank will not allow more than 15% commission to be paid to a company abroad. And the other guy, the distributor, he wanted 65% commission. So we had all kinds of challenges of selling the product abroad plus supporting it. And Reserve Bank had no clue what software is. Software being an intangible, they had no policies to allow us to take some, let's say, make the job easier for us to do our business outside India. Then we ventured into developing a database we called Gemini database. And we were very thought the product business is a real golden business for us to get into. So we took a space in Mysore, took some of the best engineers from IIT Madras and other places. And then we said, you develop the database. And Oracle had just started in those days. And Oracle had a network relational database. Ours was a network database. We had looked at IBM database and other databases and so forth. And then we said, we spent about almost a year and a half developing that product. But what do you call it? It was a homegrown database technique. So developing a product we didn't know. But we still came up with something. But again, there's serious challenges of sales tax department will come and demand their pound of flesh, excise department will come and demand their pound of flesh, X, Y, and Z. And then we said we had to close down our product operations. But the digital part, the agency people at Ganesh were buying our machines, so that was doing very well. We started software exports around digital computers. we were the pioneers in that sense of doing software export in those days. But we realized series of problems while doing export. But remember, I mean, when I was a database manager in USA, earning $22,000 per year at Travelers Insurance Company, and same thing, if I was doing it from Mumbai, sitting, all needed was a cubicle, computer, and access to the computer in Travelers. I could do the same database work, and I would get paid, in those days at least the ratio was 1:15. The labor arbitrage was fantastic. So in spite of all the problems and whatnot, we could keep growing our business. And we grew to up to 300 software resources by 1985 or 86. And then we started joint venture with digital. And we said we'll manufacture micro-X computers in India. I was one of the persons responsible for getting clearance from the government of India. And MATE, which was the hardware association, in those hardware, software, everything, they challenged us, companies like HCL, Wipro. We will see that your proposal gets delayed by 2 years. And we said, who are you? We are only doing assembly work. We are not even doing computer manufacturing. So we're just bringing some few things in knockdown conditions, putting it, and now you want to stop us when we have genuine interest in manufacturing, but they succeeded. Bureaucracy will listen to them. Because the answer was, if single company comes, like we were digital, let's say, we will not trust you. And that distrust came from British days, how the British entered India and whatnot. So, but an association comes, they will investigate, check, and put the queries in. And they successfully delayed our project. And that's why I realized the power of an association. So when we decided to start, let's say, at one point we decided, or I decided, okay, if software industry has to take birth, one problem was that all the rules of the physical world were applied to intangible software. So when you import software, the customs will charge you duty on the physical floppy, whether the software on it is $10,000 worth or $100,000 worth. But they charge you duty on that $10 of floppy physical. So they didn't know what is inside. So the hardware manufacturers in those days manipulated that manifold. And all the, duty advantage they took in bringing down the price of their hardware for Indian marketplace. And affordability in India was very low, still it is very low. So they started pricing software at zero value. So there was no, can say, value for intangible intellectual property in India in those days. So we said the software product business cannot succeed because of that mindset. Devan came up with a slogan later on saying, we believe in copyright. So do you believe in copyright or right to copy? And so those are challenges that we had going forward. So we said, and then 200 regulations we had counted, sort of strangulating the software world. And that's where I decided to form a software association. And then of course, looked around, found the people. They all added up to only 30% of the top line. TCS was having 70% market share. So I approached Mr. Kohli. I said, I would like you to become member of NASCOM. And Mr. Kohli was heading the software panel at MATE. He said, and Dr. Mehra, who was the chairman of MATE, he flatly refused for NASCOM to take birth. And his point was, anyway, IT industry is so small, again we will further fragment it by creating one more association. We said, it has nothing to do with MATE. It's an intangible. Intangible has to be looked at it separately. And that's where we want NASCOM to take birth. So luckily for us, Mr. Kohli saw the value in what we were doing. And he's appointed Dr. Nirmal Jain as his representative at NASCOM. And he continued at MATE because he wanted both hardware and software industry to grow in India. And so he continued at MATE. Nirmal Jain joined NASCOM, and that's how we got some of us together and formed NASCOM as an association.
But tell us about Devang Mehta. How did you find Devang Mehta? I mean, did you at that time think that this computer graphics guy can actually do what he did?
So after we formed NASCOM, we were losing money in the beginning. So we had one Mr. Anil Srivastava as an executive director of NASCOM. And he had no concept of money or budget or finance, or he just would like keep spending. So one day Murthy called me, Narayan Murthy. He says, Harish, kuch karo. This way we just go under. Because there were 30, 40 companies who were members who were sharing the expenses. So I called Anil, I said, let's prepare a budget and we go back to the NASCOM Executive Council for approval. So he sends me a Harvard Business article by courier which says, startups don't have budgets. I still remember. I said, Anil, thank you very much. I think that will not work with us. Ours is a serious association and we need to really, we're just starting now. So then we started looking around to replace Anil. And I knew Devang before, just 6 months before probably. He had written an article in the Economic Times about software exports. And very well written. I said, this gentleman understands. And last name being Mehta, I thought that, should we find out?
Yes, please.
So I said, let me meet Devang and who this person is. I assumed he was a Punjabi actually, living in Delhi. So he was an ADP manager at Orissa Cement. Graphics expert, chartered accountant, very articulate in what the way he was speaking. So I said, Devang, became friend later on, and when we were looking to replace Anil, in those days, again, Devang was very patriotic. So when you talk to him, and sometimes the tears will come in his eyes when he reads, let's say, corruption articles in the newspapers. And I was really, what do you call, in a way, pleasantly surprised to see that patriotism literally in his blood. So when this opportunity came to replace Anil, see, we were extremely, you can say, bullish about the potential of software business. And that too, software services business, not the product. Product itself was there, but we thought we are not ready for a product game. But software services business has massive potential. And to us, massive in those days meant $500 million, not $170 billion. But that was our vision at that point in time. If that kind of potential we can see right away to go after. So I asked Devang, would you like to join NASCOM? Are you mad? For profit, the Orissa Cement, why should I have a non-profit like NASCOM? I said, you have been telling me India has to change X, Y, and Z. So here is an opportunity, up to you. I can't force you. He said, give me 7 days. After the 7 days, he called me and says, I'm ready to look at your offer. What can you offer? So we looked around and we found that maximum salary in those days was paid to Tarun Das of CII 5,000 rupees a month. And all other associations had retired army generals as their heads. And here we are trying to look for a person. Devang was 29 years old at that time. And we are trying to bet big on him. And so I asked Devang, think about it. It's an opportunity in front of you. And how much are you earning? So he said, I'm earning 25,000 rupees a month. So there's no way we're loss making. And now you are at such a large cost to us so no way we can afford that kind of cost. So I went back I talked to NASCOM Executive Council. They said, you please go and negotiate whatever terms you think, but we need a different person. And we need a smart caliber individual to come in. So I went back to Devang, and Devang, maximum we can offer you is 15,000 a month. But we'll be fair to you. You work 4 days a week. 3 days you'll be a consultant, you're a graphics expert, and you can earn easily the differential, and you consider joining NASCOM. After a week, he came back and he said, yes, I will join NASCOM. And then after he joined, I don't think even for 1 day he did consulting. 4 days he became his 7 days, 24/7 working, and this phenomenal skills that he had. He made NASSCOM profitable in I think 2 years, and we started paying, you can say, 70% of the normal market salary which we pay to Deva. So that's how, but he invested his 3 years like a startup entrepreneur in NASSCOM and built on it.
You Harish, a break, I must tell you my favorite story about Devang Mehta. Because many of us came to NASSCOM because this high energy man comes and says, and like Harish didn't take no for an answer in recruiting Devang. Many of us just joined because of Devang. Because when I first met Devang, I was running this company, Aptech, and he just walked into one of my press conferences. End of it, he comes and says, okay, from next week you're joining the NASSCOM Executive Council. Those were by the days, by the way, that not the times of very formal elections. Today, every time you announce an Executive Council, there are hundreds of people who want to be on the EC. But that was more of people getting together who had a similar mission. And I still remember about 2 weeks before, no, I think it was probably a year before Devang died. And we were in Bombay at that time. I was just kind of finishing my stint with Aptech. And my wife was very close to Devang. So he used to keep joking with her and said, Uma Bhabi, you have to get me married. It was a standard joke. I'm sure he told Shaila Bhabi and everybody else. His favorite theme was, I want to get married. To this day, I don't know whether he was serious about it. So she called him once, and we were actually at home in Lokhandwala in Bombay. And this was like, I think, 5 o'clock in the evening, and we'd come home. And Devang just called up and said, Kaise hain aap and all that stuff. So she said, Devang, we haven't seen you for almost 6 months. Why don't you come home for dinner? I said, Devang must be in Delhi here. So Devang said, no, I'll come. But can I come a little late? So she said, okay, how late? She said, look, I'll be there by 9:30 sharp. So 9:30 became 9:45, 10 o'clock, and we were like, then the bell rings, and Devang is there. So she said, where were you? It's so long it took you from Marine Drive. He said, no, I'm Delhi se aa raha hu. You called me up when I was in Delhi, and you called me with such love for dinner. I said, I must come. He goes to the airport at 6 o'clock, takes a flight. He knew there was a 7 o'clock flight, and comes. 11 o'clock, he's looking at his watch. I said, what happened now? He says, there is the last flight at 12:30, I have to catch it. She said, are you crazy? You stay at home, you sleep here, and then you go tomorrow, aram se. He says, no, I have to catch a 5 a.m. flight to Australia. This is Devang Mehta. So when people ask me, oh my God, Ganesh, why are you doing this? Why are you traveling so much? I'm like, compared to Devang and his enthusiasm, it's unmatched. Now, if you become cynical, you'll say, oh, he was foolhardy. Why on earth would he come for dinner to somebody's house a day before he's catching a flight? Clear. But I mean, I think the industry has always been made of people who have that passion. Now, otherwise, how would, as Harish rightly said, how would you imagine a $500 million max industry suddenly becoming 150 billion, 170 billion? So it's absolutely amazing. So Harish, tell me a little bit about what is your current thinking about the industry? I know we all say, okay, now it's back to double digit. I mean, both TCS and Infosys this quarter have already showed good results. So how do you think this industry is going to grow? Today this industry is much bigger than just services or products. There are so many dimensions to it. So any broad thoughts on your own vision for where it will go?
Seeing the industry grow from where it was to $170 billion and the kind of ups and downs we have seen, I'm an eternal optimist. So you have to expect that from me, that I'm extremely bullish or positive, because seeing in the days of late 80s and 90s where India was and the kind of challenges which we had, like the software, 300 regulations strangulating us. And one thing is like very clear, we will not give a single rupee bribe to get these regulations removed. And so sometimes it took 3 years, sometimes it took 4 years to get that regulation to be changed. Like we have angel tax, you have to continuously work on it to get that work fixed, but without compromising on your values. So NASSCOM were very, very clear about the values that we put in place. India was always first, country first, then comes industry, and then comes the individual player. In a way, it is similar to what China has, authoritarian pragmatism. So that's the model we have. But when we wrote the constitution of NASSCOM, again we gave all the powers, knowing that technologies continue to change and will change, we shifted our entire powers for running the association to executive council. No ifs and buts. We had studied CSI, CII, FICCI, all other associations. And that's what we can say, we built a very healthy foundation, always consensus driven. sometimes we spend months to come to a consensus. For example, allowing 100% ownership to an MNC. I mean, we spent a year and a half before we met our finance minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and said we would like back office operations of MNCs to come in. And they said, "Tum kiske dalal ho?" I mean, abhi to un log ko nikala sab logo, but you want them to come back again here? We said yes, because whoever develops human capital of India is us, and who doesn't is not us. That's our philosophy. And we were backed up with all the research data info to go for it. And Dr. Manmohan Singh accepted that allow 100% ownership. So seeing this kind of, what do you call, major obstacle, literally you can say impossible to cross, we were crossing it. And somewhere some well-wisher will come in and help us. Like for the regulation, Mr. Vittal came in as a TiE secretary. We called a meeting of all the, I'm distracting from your main question. So I thought, let me give you some foundation behind why I would make the next few statements. So when Mr. Vittal came in, he called a meeting of all the associations. We didn't go. And in those days, TiE secretary was like God. Who are we to refuse? So next 3 or 4 days, we went and met Mr. Vittal. Why you didn't come? He said, we just want to make a point. We are representing intangible industry. You are boxing us with hardware industry. You know, Elsina and Mate and many other semiconductor associations. We are, those rules and regulations are different. We are different. He understood that. He says, give me 3 things to work on, I'll work on it. So we had some 300 regulations to be fixed. We said, we will not give you any. He says, what? He says, no, you give us one commitment. If you make change anywhere in the, any policy, any process impacting software, you will consult us. He said, only consult you. We said yes. Not accept your recommendation. We said, no, that is your call. Even bureaucrats argued on that also. How can we even consult the industry? But Mr. Vittal agreed. He said, but they are only asking to consult. And that was the starting point. Then we gave him 3 things to work on. Quickly we came to know there is a World Bank study, government is authorized to be done. How to, whatever subject they decided, but linked with the IT industry. And we were not part of it. So we went back to Mr. Vittal. Okay, we do not know that you have authorized World Bank study. It's a link with technology industry. We would like us to be part of that committee. So he said, of course you should be. So other bureaucrats, they put us, they put Mate, they put NEC, they put many other associations along with us as part of that committee. When we look at the terms of reference of that study, it was all software product driven. We say this is totally unacceptable. Because those of us who had done product business had failed miserably. And we knew it's an uphill task for us to succeed in the product game. But services had a potential. So luckily Robert Swartz, who was heading the World Bank study, he saw our viewpoint. And he added another 20 terms of conditions which we defined, which were all around software services. So when the report came out, there were 40 changes. Mr. Vittal could just pick it up and get it done. Because there are multi-departments and different turfs to be crossed, not very easy to make those changes done. But Mr. Vittal could do it. And he did lots of such changes. So when Narayan Murthy's son was getting married, we were at Venu's home. Some of us were sitting in the 4th row. And before us there were sofas and where Advani, Chidambaram, DMK, all of them, politicians were there in the first 2 rows. Ramani of Future Software came to me and said, Harish bhai, Mr. Vittal has come and he's sitting somewhere on the back. So I said, he was there on some 21st row. I went there, I said, Vittal sir, you should be ahead of those sofas. People are sitting ahead. You are the one who has changed India. You are the one who has made these regulations change and allowed industry to grow. And we have seen such individuals, one coming always, like when we had a visa issue in the US, we all tried very hard, including our Prime Minister or whatnot, to increase the number. Ultimately, it is Bill Gates who called Bill Clinton and he said, I need software resources, so you increase the quota. So the help or support to us came from 15 different ways, and whether it is the rupee depreciating or whether it was communication cost dropping, 15 different ways. So the future is so uncertain and unfolds in such a different way. If you are smart, you can always convert it into your way. So going forward, I'm extremely bullish from the perspective that the technology as a base, India will be extremely strong. We see we have 30,000 startups now, and yeah, we're still substantially focused on e-commerce and not on the deep technology driven. But we are seeing that fantastic change happening. Entrepreneurs are learning, whether it's artificial intelligence or blockchain or 3D printing, you name it, they're picking up very fast. I have not seen a single proposal in the last 3 or 4 months which is not AI driven. Whether they really understand or not, I do not know that part. But at least they're positioning themselves very well. They're willing to learn. They're ready to jump in and do it. And that's the way to go. And very few countries in the world will have this kind of resource, 30,000 startups, and I'm sure we'll create that what do you call it, the cloud or power of it. Okay, India will again, like services, we became the destination, and we used to keep on coining different slogans. You remember, like in software business, we first coined the term "come for the cost, stay for the quality." You know, Six Sigma. Sorry, SCI level 5, first company Motorola, which you did. Yeah. So that quality was the focus, but nobody would come for that. But they'll come for cost. So we came up with the slogan: "Come for the cost, stay for the quality." Later on, we came up with the slogan, "Trusted sourcing nation." So like that, it kept on happening beautifully well. So similarly here, we find ways that in spite of China wanted to compete with India in IT industry, the Forrester's John McCarthy, he told Chinese very clearly, you cannot compete with India until you create NASSCOM equivalent organization. Because here I see the most fiercely competitive companies, from McKinsey's to TCS to Infosys to Wipro to IBM to Accenture, sitting across one table and solving industry's problem. Okay, nowhere else in the world we have seen this kind of model that you have built at NASSCOM. And when you have that, very difficult to compete. So he advised Chinese government, you have a tough time if you want to compete with India. So I'm hoping that we will create such levels of different depth of expertise, because 1.3 billion people is our strength in that sense. The demography will play a major role. Opportunities are plenty to, per capita is so small, to go even to raise it to 10 times. Entrepreneurs are phenomenal opportunity for digital market itself, or Indian market itself.
No, that's very true. I remember sitting with the mayor of Shenzhen in China for lunch, almost 8 years back. And he said exactly that. He said that, look, we were advised that something like NASSCOM has to happen. So apparently the Chinese Communist Party decided to create 3 separate ministries to compete with NASSCOM. So it was quite amazing. And he told me this. He says, all the ministries are now fighting each other. We still don't know how to compete. I mean, it's a different story that today China is so far ahead of us and America in artificial intelligence that we have to be careful. So I think Chinese are getting their act in place in many other parts of this. Yeah. So Harish, I mean, one other question I had on, I mean, NASSCOM is great. What about TiE? I mean, what was your inspiration for TiE? And I remember in the early days, in Kamal Rekhi, so many people were passionate about TiE. You talked about Rajiv Vaishnav. So what do you think is the role of TiE as you go forward in complementarity with NASSCOM, in terms of working with entrepreneurs? Because as we all know, the entrepreneurial movement in India, I mean, after Startup India, Stand Up India, there was a bit of a lull because too many .com lookalikes started emerging and a lot of them shut down. But today we are seeing many robust startups and entrepreneurs coming up. So what do you think is the future of TiE and entrepreneurship? What would be your suggestion?
Kanwal Rekhi, I had a joint venture with Nobel, and Kanwal Rekhi came on my board. And so then I introduced him to NASSCOM. I'm going back to early 90s, 94, 95. So he looked at NASSCOM events and said, my God, such a, he said, what is the new India emerging I'm seeing? And so all the let's say Murthy's to Azim to Ganesh to all the professionals or CEOs who were there running their own companies and they were communicating and so on and so forth. But he said, but why are you guys focused on services? So I would tell him, Karmal, tu yahan ke dhandha kar, then you'll know the challenges of product game. We all understand the value of product and intellectual property and the multiplier effect and so on and so forth. You can monetize so well. But we are just not ready for there's no internet in India, all kinds of challenges. And if you don't have a healthy domestic market, how do you think of doing a product for global market? Then you might as well be moved to Silicon Valley and do it, if that is the objective. There's no reason for you to do it from India. So we feel very clear to us that we are still not there for the product game. He said, but you're getting paid your sweat, not for your brain. I said, true, but we don't have an option. We believe that's where our potential is. And any services business still growing 30% with 30% margin, as good as a product margin in some ways. And it's retaining best of best people in India, creating jobs, injecting meritocracy, and the governance at the highest. There's so many other benefits that our industry is bringing in changing India. So product, while it is very attractive, he said, well, look at Oracle. Oracle has, I don't remember the numbers correctly exactly, but he said they have only 1,000 MBAs and MTechs, and Infosys has 6,000 MBAs and MTechs. Look at the market cap of Infosys. It is 1/3 of Oracle. So that's the difference between the product game and the services game. We say, Kanwal, we all agree with your logic, but India is just not ready. But we'll be happy to do whatever we can. So that my dialogue would continue with him on this. And then in 1998, the dot-com boom came. And then Sridhar Iyengar, one of the TiE person, he says, my landlord wants me to pay the rent in terms of stock options. He says, then these are the kind of stories when we started hearing, we said maybe India is missing out something. Even though we are not ready, we have to jump in. So that's the time I brought TiE into India. And then I started with TiE in Mumbai, then Nandan started in Bangalore, and Saurabh started in Delhi. That's how the TiE came to India. But then the bust came and everything died down. But once the internet came and we created a base of 4 million software engineers and other parameters we saw, we said now we are ready to get into the game of. But more than that, I am a firm believer that we will transform it. IT industry, it's 1,000 years of downward spiral of India was arrested by IT industry. The upward transformation of India will be driven by entrepreneurs. That's my belief. Based on whatever I have read, understood, and so forth. I believe they are the ones who are going to transform India. Not the politicians, not the bureaucrats, no statesman, no one neta is going to drive it. And it will be done by millions and millions of, I call them fireflies, who will light the Indian sky. I'm a very firm believer in that. Simple example, we have 600 million farmers and the retail shop owners spread all over the country. Every one of them has an entrepreneurial gene. Now, how do you convert them into a startup entrepreneur in their way? That's our challenge as a TiE, for example. And so NASSCOM will remain deep technology focused, while TiE provides a fantastic platform to promote entrepreneurship. I'm not saying only startup. I'm saying promoting entrepreneurship, and that's what excites me about TiE.
Exactly. Very good. Very good.
One last question from my side, Harish. I mean, as I said, the whole industry, all of us at NASSCOM definitely, we really love and respect you. So what makes Harish Mehta so special? I mean, I still remember, it was a great loss for all of us when your wife Shaila Bhabhi died early, which was very, very unfortunate. But today you're a wonderful father. You have two of the most adoring grandchildren I've ever met in my life. And you live for them. At the same time, you have time for each one of us. Whenever anybody calls, you can always be guaranteed that Harish Mehta will call you back and talk to you. So what makes Harish Mehta so special? Where do you get this genetic code from?
I have no idea. I think all of you made me what I am today. Keep learning every day from that perspective. But I do believe that our generation and your generation also has a civic responsibility more than normal. The corruption in the country, the bureaucracy, I just don't want to depend on politicians and bureaucrats to change India. Yeah. And we have to change it. To me, we have to stretch ourselves and not relax and say, I'm grandfather, I'm this, and be happy with it. Which I can take that approach. But I still think that we all have to keep on doing it till we achieve certain stage. So that's what drives me to continuously work at it.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I was in a college reunion of BIT Mestra and Ranchi where I did my engineering. And maybe 60 of us, and there were only 2 of us who were still working. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And everybody's talking about their grandchildren and saying, so most of them work for, let's say, Tata Steel, Steel Authority of India, Coal India, etc. And I remember talking to my good friend Nitin Olia, who's the Dean of Harvard Business School. Nitin says the biggest problem in India is we have some mental thing called retirement age. So he took me to meet this gentleman in Harvard Business School, Warren McFarlane. Warren is 84 years old. And they're finding it difficult to kick the guy out because he still teaches more classes than anybody else. And as you know, in America, you can't ask anybody either their age or their sex. It's like completely not possible to ask these questions. So you can't ask a person, they all know Warren is 84, but how do you ask him to retire? How do you ask him to fade into the sunset? He said, this is what you guys should do. So don't think that you're 60, oh my God, you're getting old. Make sure that you're as young and you feel as young as long as possible. So I think that's a very important point you're making. That there's so much more to be done. And I think that's what motivates all of us. People like Harish, people like FC Kohli. Even last year we had the NASCOM offsite in Sri Lanka. And we always invite Mr. Kohli and Mr. Murthy. And Mr. Kohli and Mrs. Kohli came. Not only did they come, we actually had a cruise in Sri Lanka on a very shaky boat. The first couple on the dance floor were Mr. Kohli and his wife. And we were worried, saying, what's going to happen? But amazing. So I'm saying people like this are constant inspirations for us.
I'll tell you a very interesting story about Kohli, Mr. Kohli. Kohli and I have a very strong bond. People know, they used to know Kohli as a very tough guy, hard guy, X, Y, and Z. But I had somehow built a very, I would say, healthy, good relations with him. So when he was made director, managing director of College Engineering Pune, he brought me in as a director of COEP. So the technical education secretary wrote to him. He recommended my name to them. So the technical education secretary wrote back to him saying, give us 3 names. And then we will choose one. He had the guts to write back to him saying, Harish Mehta, Harish Mehta, Harish Mehta.
That's typical Mr. Kohli.
He was the guy who will put his stake on the ground. Then in one of the meetings, at the board meeting, for some 11 crore funding COEP wanted from the government. And the language Mr. Kohli used, I was not very happy. Requesting, pleading literally, the bureaucrats that you give us that 11 crore funding. So after the meeting was over, I said, Kohli sir, how can you use such words? Your stature, your position, you are TCS chairman, how can you lie low? I mean, for 11 crores, why would you do it? He said, Harish, मेरा नाम क्या है? Mr. FC Kohli. नहीं, मेरा नाम क्या है? So suddenly I was thinking, what is his name? I didn't, frankly, it took me a while. I said, Fakir. Fakir Chand Kohli. He said, Fakir का मतलब पता है ना? So for COEP, I have no ego to go with a begging ball. What is good for COEP to do? Still at the age of 90, he did this. So, amazing individuals.
Great. So with that, I think we've had a very phenomenal interaction, and you kind of got the breadth and depth of Harish's story. I mean, we could say that his most brilliant move was NASCOM, and many of us believe that. But if you look at all the other achievements, whether it's TiE, whether it's Onward, whether of course it was Inditron, the whole services agenda, talking to people like Mr. N. Mittal and making sure the whole STP scheme, which kind of created this industry, came about. I think there's multiple stuff of that what Harish has done. Over to you. Yes, Anand.
So, tell us something about your emotions when you got the award in hands of the present PM.
You mean when you say award, is the recognition?
There was an award for the NASCOM members.
NASCOM founders. What did you feel when Prime Minister Modi recognized the NASCOM founders? If you remember in Delhi, 4 of you were recognized.
Nothing much, frankly. I mean, what we had done was more than what he had done that point. I mean, our industry, grew without the government support, literally. We only wanted umbrella support. So he recognized us in the price thing. I'm not denying it. But that's it. I don't think I'd gone gaga over it that he did it. Don't have that great respect for all politicians from that perspective. I find every one of them is so interested in their chair. They're ready to compromise. Never know what the truth is. So very few of them put their stake on the ground.
In fact, at the end of that event, because we had these, it was this 400 CEOs of the IT industry, and then they had invited 20 of us to stay back and just briefly meet Prime Minister Modi. And almost like what Harish said, we said, oh my God, I hope it doesn't take too much time, etc. So we went in there and there was lots of chai, and then of course we were, "Aap log sab semicircle mein aa jaiye. Prime Minister will come. Please do not try to shake his hand. He will come, he will smile at you and he will go." He said, "Good, yeah. So then Prime Minister Modi is very smart. So he comes in, each one of us, he spoke for 1.5 to 2 minutes, shook our hand. At the end of it, we were like saying, "Kab khatam hone wala hai?" Because a lot of us, 30 minutes already over. At the end of the line, he pauses and turns around, "Aapko mere sath selfie nahi lena?" So the reason I'm saying this is, Prime Minister Modi is a great man. He also knows that here is one industry, as Harish rightly said, which will grow. We are not that dependent on government and sanctions and whatever else. So I think people also realize that there is a pride in this industry which has to be celebrated. When Atal Bihari talked about, IT is India's tomorrow, that is the name that was coined. I think all these are signals that there's a lot to be proud of, and I think we can continue that. I completely agree with what Harish said. Sorry, Matan, I'll come back to you. Anand, yes.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Harish. It's really wonderful to have you back in Pune again after a long time. Couple of my initial interactions with Harish. I was running the first 100% EOU software in Pune, Yojana Systems, and Harish was the first one to put that SME then on the executive council of NASSCOM. I'll never forget that. And then he brought Colonel Rekhi to our unit in mostly industrial estate. And it was a very smart unit, but we had a whole black board full, or white board full, process written there. I think you will remember that. And Colonel Rekhi said, "Oh, you guys are actually following the process." So, it is all written completely, and that's how I got picked up in Motorola. This is history. Well, the 2 points which I wanted to mention to you, Harish, in terms of perhaps some perspective for NASSCOM. And that is, now we have 4 key technologies with which we can really take off. AI, ML, IoT, and of course cyber. And all of these require mathematics and statistics in a big way. With due regards, I'm an engineer as well, but our engineers and our engineering maths can never match the algorithmic work that we need to do. And the BSc, the MSc maths and stats, or even PhD maths and stats, have a different perspective altogether. We don't have a program, a nationwide program from NASSCOM, where you have this completely new strata of budding IT guys waiting to come in. And I think it's our responsibility to some of them. I had interaction with a lot of these guys, MSc maths in Pune, and very bright, 90% in BSc. And we asked them what are you going to do after your MSc 3 years. They said, in BSc ko baithna hai. You know that competitive Maharashtra competitive exam. उसमें से 2-3 पास हो जाते, बैलेंस 27 आप क्या करोगे? They said नहीं, घर जाके गांव में जाके वो क्लास रखेंगे. Coaching class is there. I mean, it's a really tearful thing to hear that. So there's no program of this because these technologies are going to be the base. And then you can have a vertical which is for healthcare or auto or manufacturing or anything else. But this base of 4 technologies which require maths, that's one. And the second thing, I'll come back and you can answer both. We also need to somehow, apart from US, Europe, Britain and everything else, try to look for smaller countries to be very strong partners of us. And I can see three absolutely on the horizon. One is Israel. I mean, that's a startup nation. So, and they lack manpower. That's the beauty of it. So I think not just service-related thing, but it's a combined. So startup to startup, if you do a coordination, we have started doing that from Pune. The Bhav Institute, as you know, has a 2-year MOU with TiE, Tel Aviv University. We have done this last 2 years. So Israel is one. Second is Vietnam. Vietnamese are extraordinarily smart in maths. Not many people know that. In Silicon Valley, majority of the algorithmic people in the hardware chip industry are Vietnamese. A guy from startup CEO, at the age of 17, with nothing, no knowledge, he went to, as a boat person, exile, went to Silicon Valley. At the age of 22, in 5 years, he had obtained a PhD from Stanford in maths. Extraordinarily bright people. So Vietnam is second one, and they love Maharashtra for some reason, because guerrilla warfare they learned from Shivaji Maharaj. So their defense minister came to Raigad and garlanded the statue of Shivaji Maharaj. So, yeah, but they are extraordinarily fond of India in general, Maharashtra in particular.
Third country?
And the third country is Estonia. It's an amazing country. It was under Russian influence. In the Navy, we had gone there because our minesweepers were built there. That's how I came to know about it in Thailand and other places. But it's a very smart country. Actually, it's a Scandinavian country, not so much Russian. And they are very good in AI. They are very good in digital general technology. The first country which has digitized itself almost 10 years ago. So these three countries can really be partnered by us, and globally we can reach out. That's all I feel. So I want to know from NASSCOM's perspective.
First, I'll answer again, along with that, as Narendra Modi, Prime Minister. I have a lot of respect for him, but I have a respect for unsung heroes of the industry. So Anand Khandekar is one such hero, in my eyes. Or you have, let's say, Mr. Victor. Like that, there are many others who are really the backbone on which the industry has come up. His company was the first company to have CMM level 5 quality certification. And in the days when every Indian industrialist was rubbish, exporting and dumping the products abroad, and that no customer would even look at Indian product, to create a brand for India was such a tough challenge. So this CMM level 5 was the first step. But learning from that, at NASSCOM we decided that any company who employs more than 100 software engineers must have CMM level 5 certification. And that built India quality brand to a level, and now it has just become a juggernaut to continue going forward. So that's one. Second is, just to answer these 2 points. On the 3 countries, as I said in the beginning, my job is to pass on great ideas, not the goalkeeper. So here the goalkeeper is Devjani, I'll pass on those inputs to her. It's her job to. And from a NASSCOM perspective, if I ask you, it's a $170 billion industry is driven. How many employees NASSCOM has who are involved in that process? Less than 100. I'm amazed at how this 100 people are driving it. But we have 200 volunteers from the industry contributing. We have more than 50 consulting houses who are working with NASSCOM. So that's what drives the entire model forward. So we have decided a long time back, we would like to be a trusted catalyst. Very open, transparent, and competent in terms of understanding the issues and finding the right things to be done. So as a trusted catalyst, we will not get into, let's say, education type of thing, what you are suggesting. I would give it to subject matter experts like Ganesh to come back and figure out. Maybe he'll start a business around it. We had similar issues before, and AppTechs and NIITs took birth. There's huge pressure on NASSCOM. You do it, you do it, you do it. But we allowed market forces to come up. When they see the opportunity, they will drive it. And in general, he can tell you a lot more about the reforms in the education sector from what the question you are raising.
In fact, just as a quick, I'm sure Harish didn't know it, but when we first looked at the AI ML opportunity almost a year back, we said let's find a really great company in America who will come back and make this happen. And surprisingly, we found, in fact, we're getting this person to speak at TiE on March 22nd. A guy called Arun. Arun is an IIT Madras guy. So 4 IIT Madras guys had set up this company called Systech in Los Angeles. And when I met him, their clients are Walmart, they're doing SpaceX, Tesla, most of the AI stuff is done there. So I told Arun, look Arun, you guys are doing so well in America. Why don't you come back and teach a lot of aspiring Indians exactly what you said, AI and ML, and do it from a practitioner's perspective, not from a university professor's perspective. He said the only constraint I have is I have to do it in my hometown, which is Chennai. So I told him, fine, Chennai is fine, we'll do it for 1 year and then can you bring it to Pune please? He said, okay, first let's do Chennai. Believe me, we started it last year as a joint venture with him. 4 batches, completely sold out, brilliant guys were like quitting their job and all getting jobs immediately. So I completely agree with you. And we plan to start that in Pune. So I think yes, you're absolutely right. Enough opportunity. By the way, NASSCOM has enough big interventions going on with China and with Japan. And at least one of our past chairman, Pramod Pasid, has been telling me the next retreat has to be in Tallinn, Estonia.
Yeah.
And then we'll take a ferry to Finland. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come to you at some point of time. But absolutely. Vandana, you had a question?
Yeah. Thanks. Harish, I was just going to ask you about TiE. So we've got, since TiE came to India, entrepreneurship has changed a lot. It's gone from the startup culture, we've got lifestyle entrepreneurs, etc., etc. So from a TiE perspective, how do you think TiE should be, which groups do you think TiE should be supporting? Because it's impossible to be all things to all people. But so which groups of entrepreneurs do you think we should be supporting? And what are the problems that you've been hearing from entrepreneurs that you feel TiE can really deal with?
See, from the TiE perspective, I would say we need to create a virtual TiE India structure. We have series of problems which are not city driven. So if you want entrepreneurship to flourish in general, you need to remove all those layers, like taxation for example, be it angel tax, be it e-commerce policy. So say NASSCOM also we have created digital regulations group to drive it. Unless every new, let's say, drones for example, the regulations will stop it. So I believe it is the job of TiE and NASSCOM to work at the government level to create an umbrella where entrepreneurship can flourish. Because every new technology will impact some regulation of 1800 to 1900 or 2000 which is there in the statute, and we have to find a way to work at it. So that's one answer as a institute. It is their job to drive it forward. Now how to create TiE, let's say virtual India structure, that's a challenge in front of us because TiE is structured as at a chapter level, not at a, so TiE global is there, but still I'm not seeing having that teeth in them to drive this agenda forward. Beyond that, from my perspective, if India has to become a global technology hub, I would encourage technology-driven entrepreneurship to all areas, be it rural entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, or business, has to be driven by technology. That would be my simple perspective.
Absolutely.
Kiran?
Yeah. No, just
No, I want to pick on your comments about the downward and the upward spiral. When you talk to people, that's been my observation that a couple of things differentiate people who have been through the software revolution in India is the international competitiveness. So in my mind, I don't feel that inferiority or superiority, nothing like that. And here is a problem, here is a business opportunity, I'll go and do it, independent of whether I'm Indian or not. But that doesn't transform to other industries. Possibly with the exception of Bollywood, which I respect for having created a global industry. There's Bollywood following all over the world. How do we do that to other industries is where the GDP will go, which is where I think Chinese have done much better. I tend to agree with you that I'm happy to compete with Chinese. I'll lose some, I'll win some, that's fine. But I think Chinese have created an across-the-board mindset where we have not done that. Though there is a strong example in IT industry which went international from the day one.
Yeah.
What's the IT industry and outsourcing? We ended up creating a global delivery model. Global delivery model didn't exist in the world before.
We invented that.
Yeah.
We invented that.
So it's an innovative model that came out of India. Nowhere in the world project development is an industry. What we do for 170 billion, whatever number, it's all project development. Can that be an industry? But we have converted that into an industry, the innovative mindset, and then of course, all other parameters that go with it. And at NASSCOM, this question has come up, all the adjacent areas, let's say manufacturing. Today also, Maruti pays 6% royalty for every car sold in India. Why is Suzuki not doing design of cars in India? Which is, again, substantially technology driven. And once you have, and we believe that very strongly, if you control the design, you control your destiny. Then you have all the flexibility with you. Otherwise, you always subservient to your manufacturer who is giving subcontracting work.
Positive thing about Harish, just a follow on Ganesh from this thing. Next generation companies that are coming out of India, whether they succeed or fail, they have a liberation in their mind. So I think that's where the entrepreneurship comes in, and it could be a lifestyle business as Vandana is talking about, it could be something that may grow very big. The place they suffer is often funding. So I think that is like, as we were talking, that there were a couple of puzzles that NASSCOM actually solved. And you started it, Devang came in, and we actually, sometimes life has to be lucky also. And we did that. And I think in this sense, especially when I was looking at some of the companies that we look at, Nurture and this one, there are some amazing companies and the founders are pivoting them around popular buzzwords like IoT. This could change the way cable runs in the world, but they have no funding, so they tend to pivot. And that puzzle we have to solve, otherwise, we will always have that issue. And I think, again, Chinese have done a better job than us there.
I think India model would be different in that sense.
Absolutely.
India model would be driven by entrepreneurs from that perspective versus state driving it.
Right.
I have invested in a company in Bangalore where the two scientists are at the final stage of making artificial liver. Now they have, and I can throw these buzzwords, STEM technology, tissue engineering, cellular technology, 3D printing, microfluids. These two scientists have no mindset, any mind block. They are moving from one technology to another. In our days, electrical to mechanical, all separate silos. Here these two individuals are collecting 8 different technologies, learning and then coming up with a product. And take Rajamouli of Bahubali. I mean, he saw 800 animation engineers in Hyderabad. And he asked somebody, can you create this waterfall for me? And the engineer said, of course I can do it. Give me 1 week. So 1 week. I'm a creative person. I want to see the results now. Then only I can see the next scene and the next scene. I can't wait for 1 week. But then they put the team together. They came up with a special parallel processing graphics hardware. He put 400 engineers, and he ended up creating Bahubali 1 and 2, which became the biggest blockbuster in the country. It's purely entrepreneurial skills, no government support, X, Y, and Z, putting the 15 things together and driving it. I see that's how India is going to. Government policies like Made in India or Design in India or Create in India, there are so many vested interests, and they're so solid in terms of the way they do it. They are not yet ready to break in unless somebody comes in. So
and we were
have
lucky
to fight
in software.
that. Change management will take a tough time to bring in.
We were lucky in software that people like Vittal understood it.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah. And they didn't understand. Vittal came back after 5 years,
Right.
saying, I've got 15 crores to spend, let's do it together.
Yeah.
We said, Mr. Vittal, you keep the government away from us, please keep it away. You go and spend the way you want. We don't want government to do micromanagement of our industry, period. And he agreed.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
I have a quick suggestion request and a quick question. So first the suggestion request. I think it was great hearing about all the early day stories about Vittal, about Devang Mehta. One, I guess, suggestion for NASSCOM and seniors like you is we need to do a little bit of a better job of telling this history. I don't know what the format is. Maybe NASSCOM should be creating more videos because these days no one reads. But it's, I mean, a lot of the 20-somethings today probably have no idea about Indian IT industry's history. And I'm a fan of history, so I think people don't know about Kohli, people don't know about Devang Mehta. So I think we need to do a better job at that. The quick question, different topic, is given your vast experience of the Indian IT industry, are there any specific things that you would like to see or recommend to the Pune IT community?
Pune IT?
Community in general, startups as well as mature companies.
Grow.
See being done differently
Think
compared
big.
to what other cities are doing.
The first point is well taken. We need to do definitely a much better job in communicating, and so I've been debating in my mind to write. I think he was supposed to write a story on NASSCOM. Hasn't written. I've been also debating. Haven't just got the time or whatever courage to get the process started. But that's absolutely definitely a must. From the Pune IT, I mean, I would say Pune has to look at its natural strengths. So if your natural strength is manufacturing, your natural strength is IT, BPO, and then how do you play with those niche areas and come up with different startups or
But Harish, does
services,
it really
businesses?
matter?
Sorry?
Does it really matter? My question today is whether it is Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kolhapur, everybody has access to good. What we have, everybody has it, or everybody doesn't have it. So I think everything can come from everywhere.
So the ecosystem.
It's like a cricketer today, a good bowler or a good batsman. It's not only Mumbai or Bangalore, they can come from anywhere.
No, but the match winner comes only from my hometown, Ranchi.
No, but if suppose the investor community is
Your ex-town.
not strong in Pune, Pune has to figure out how to get more investors
That is
deeply involved with the
investors, yes.
startups.
Investors, yes.
If the startups in Pune, after when they go for Series A, Series B funding, and then they move to Bangalore because the technical people are available, Pune has to fix that problem. Otherwise, you'll keep losing people, your good companies at
But
certain
you know,
stage. to
good
outside
companies
Pune.
don't lose people because of location. They don't.
No, no,
In
companies are
fact, they
going. I'm saying
attract.
VCs are telling the startup entrepreneur, now I'm giving you $6 million, you move to Bangalore. I'll pay for all your expenses, X, Y, and Z, whatever.
But good founders also know how to manage that by making sure that where
True,
they are.
and that is also, I mean, yeah, I'm not denying it, but the point is Pune has to, looking at his strengths, weaknesses, and come up with a game plan to minimize the impact of weaknesses and continue.
Yeah.
And the strength, I'm saying, domain area that you have such a deep domain, manufacturing expertise. So there should be entrepreneurs who leverage it, and I hardly see any proposals blending the two, like what Rajamouli did with animation and filmmaking. We have not seen any proposal where manufacturing and the technology skills blended together with the newer solutions.
No, I completely agree with that, because even 3 years back, when Kunal was the commissioner here, and he got 4 of us, Dr. Mashelkar, me, Rajiv Bajaj, and this gentleman called Premnath who runs the NCL Venture Center. So he got us together, and we said exactly that. I mean, the interfaces of technology with medical research, with even what Venture Center is doing, which is, they have a waiting list of some 40 people wanting to set up healthcare facilities within that. Then of course manufacturing, as you rightly said, and also looking at scientific research. So I think all this is there. I agree with you, Hari. We haven't really cracked it, and potentially I think that is where the opportunity is. Like for instance, both Anand Deshpande and I have invested in this little company called Ahamune, which operates out of Venture Center. It's run by this extremely bright Kashmiri girl called Parul Ganju, who trained in Delhi and then has moved here. There are some outstanding entrepreneurs coming up, which are actually going to be, I think, redefine the next level of entrepreneurship.
So I also look at it as catch-22, because if you talk to the investors, they don't want to look at companies which are talking about manufacturing for some reason. They think it's a risky investment. They don't want to invest in things that are going to be cash flow. I mean, say for example, inventory issues, design issues, and so on and so forth. They don't have decent success stories. It's like a catch-22. So entrepreneurs shy away from hardware then, you know. They say, okay, let's not make any manufacturing, we just stick to apps, let's just stick to this. It's really catch-22. Somebody has to break that.
Absolutely.
No, I think it is the success stories which will break that. You read a few success stories in each category. It's always going to be difficult. I mean, even global delivery model, a lot of credit to TCS, but equal credit to Narayan Murthy for the whole
But if you look at
popularizing the offshore outsourcing story.
But look at the US ecosystem, that the manufacturing in the early days really was fostered because there were people willing to invest in it.
Okay.
In China, that role was played by the government, the state, and so on and so forth. I think we don't have that angel who is willing to look at manufacturing, and that's why, or even product for that matter. They say, oh, it's too risky.
You can convince VCs to have 5% of the fund go for this kind of high risk areas. And they would be happy to do it. But again, we have to tell our narrative has to be right to tell that story for them to divert that 5% fund and say it is high risk, but it's still worth doing it.
Really an option. Rajesh, go ahead.
Man, Harish, inspiring story, very interesting one. So the question I have is, while building my company and past 20 years, one of the problems which we have faced, maybe it's our problem, I don't know if it's an industry problem, others can talk, or maybe you can give your perspective. My challenge has been, many programmers who work in our company still has that order-taking mentality. So when we created, you talked about global delivery. We created global delivery in America, local center there, Brazil, Europe. Somehow, when we build these new technology projects like digital platforms, the guys from there, they have very good knack of asking right questions. They will challenge us on-site. Where from India, I still feel that whatever we will tell them, they still go and do it. We are in the world of agile, but this culture of order taking is not changing. I don't know if NASSCOM has faced this situation, or you guys are thinking something, or others are facing the same situation. So this might bring better value to India.
I fully agree with you in terms of the challenge that we have going forward. And we don't know, we have not put any research done, whether it's a joint family system that's coming through where we always respect the elders and do, and then only when we become cross 45, 50, we start taking charge. So we have probably a number of reasons why we don't do what we should be doing. Even if you see I remember we had 2 Germans in our office, and that day the SSC results were announced. And rank number 1 was congratulated by maybe the chief minister or whatever, all kinds of congratulatory messages for the first ranker. He says, "What's wrong with your country?" I said, "I am saying it. Why?" He said, "Came 99.5%, and that person is being congratulated by society, is celebrating that." It's absolute no-no in Germany, he said. He said, "You are teaching your children at the school level to compete with each other, hide with each other, get into the deception techniques, and so on and so forth. But tomorrow's world or today's world is all about collaboration."
Yeah.
So in Germany, it is not allowed giving ranking.
We also got rid of
So it's a very fundamental issue in terms of maybe we've been promoting the culture in that sense. So let's say, I don't know how it's going to change, but many people are sensitive and alert to it, and they're making the best effort. That's what I would say right now.
Rajesh, my thing is that the next generation is going to anyway redefine this rule.
Yeah.
Whether it's your son Pranay, my daughter Karuna, or anybody else, I don't think they're going to listen to us. Forget about them.
I hope so. That's big change needed. Truly, Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I just want to respond to what my view is on the Fulcrum Founders question actually. So one of the questions is how much leadership qualities do the middle level management have actually in their IT industry actually? How much support do the managers offer to their team members so that they can go shoulder to shoulder with the client actually? We are on the receiving end because we are a service industry actually. We always kind of try to suppress our explanations or our solutions when it comes to putting to the client actually. Because we fear losing a client or like going against their plans actually. So that has become a big bottleneck actually. In the scrum calls, in the meetings that happens on daily basis, we are not supposed to talk, not supposed to put our question while writing emails. We have to be very careful actually. I am being at that developer and lead level actually. I can understand this issue, but we don't get the kind of support that we need from the middle management. So there is CEO, MD, and but that vision has to flow down. So the middle level management has to take something on this.
There's a joke in India that the guy responsible for all problems is the so-called middle manager. We all forget we were also middle managers at some point.
Yeah, that is correct.
I'm just joking.
So Harish, thank you very much. A lovely session. I had an opportunity to meet Devang Mehta as well as a grad student at Berkeley, and was just equally inspired in that. I think in Delhi we met for about 20 minutes and he liked me with a lot. I just wanted to voice a slightly different thought. I think Mr. Khandekar has pointed out a very important issue. I'm a seed investor, aggressive seed investor myself, so I've seen this in action, how much of a lack of important technology skill set we are facing as a country, right? But there is another global and a macro thing happening right now, where funded by the soft banks of the world, we have Swiggy delivery boys who are getting paid more than software engineers today, right? And that, seriously, right? That is the reality today, right? Swiggy delivery boys paying more than software engineers. So, and that money is not going away, as we can all see, right? So I think it's less of a question and more of a thought as to how are we going to fight, right? Me as a seed investor who believes that, I think if AI or whatever is going to do at NCS as well as other places, a very strong potential, right? But these founders are going to need engineers who don't know how to program or ask questions or are suppressed. We have lack of math and AI capability, and we have funding that is going to hire delivery boys, right? So I think there is really, I don't think all of us can play a role, and I'm playing my role by investing, let's say, right? But I think as a body, right, and I think, and I'll agree with Amit that, the history was really amazing. I think with Devang Mehta, I just had a little glimpse of it. But as a industry body and with the seniority that you all have in terms of perspective, I think something deeper needs to happen, right? And
I mean, by and large, we do it through our workshops, conferences, then we bring people like you all together, discuss, debate, and then take it forward. We only act as a, networking
catalyst,
and as a catalyst to platform to drive it. That's it. So these are two, I would say, deep questions, deeper in terms of, it is the locals who have to really solve it.
Yeah.
It's not an industry issue, but it cannot be solved by the association. It has to be solved at individual level, and then those who do well, they are the ones who become Infosys and TCSs. That's your challenge to figure out how you come out of all that.
Okay, a lot of questions. I'm going to just ask you guys to ask 3 questions and then ask Harish to reply and then close this.
Yeah, the sense of history which I got was amazing. I mean, everybody must have, we remembered smatterings of reading news in the various items, and those you were relating to them as if you were the guys who were doing that. That was amazing actually.
They were the guys who were doing
Yeah. So I mean, definitely you should write a book or something about this. And but the, one thing I would like your thoughts on is the angel tax. Could you just speak something about?
We'll come back. So, yes. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, both of you.
Yeah, I'm a few batches junior to you at COEP, and I have been wondering what role do you think technology should be playing specifically in COEP, because you've been associated as a director, whatever. So do you think what they're doing is right? Is there more to be done? Is there anything specific that engineering colleges, specifically COEP, should do using technology?
Okay, yeah, Joe.
So one question I had regarding the SaaS industry, and how do you see that where Chennai, Pune, and of course Bangalore is playing a big part in this, but do you see the next wave coming through from a global businesses being built in India
through the SaaS industry?
Wide spectrum. SaaS industry, then you've got technology in educational institutions and angel tax. Which one do you want to choose?
I start from angel tax. Unfortunately, in India, the people and politicians, bureaucrats, and business industrialists, large chunk of black money is getting converted into white using the angel model. High valuation and then dumping it, and then they convert. They bring the money from outside. No, we don't know the sources. So we are up against that. And all the bureaucrats in the income tax department believe very strongly that's the only way they can control it. And angels happens to be part of the same path. So to us, the solution would be a bypass, which DIPP has come up with a bypass solution, which is not perfect because merchant bank valuation and so on and so forth, but it's far, far better than what we have seen. And some of the hassles that we're going through, hopefully, from Arun Jaitley to Suresh Prabhu, they're all extremely sensitive. They want to help, and that, that's it, the harassment will reduce dramatically.
So merchant bank valuation is the right thing to do. If we get ourselves valued from a merchant bank,
yeah.
that is what.
No, we don't have a choice. Because that's we will come with some recommendation, some via media solution to do it. Who else would certify? So that's a government question, and then if we can have a better solution, we can always go back to government.
Thanks, you solved the problem.
No, we have come up with very creative solution for every problem, and then Devang was a master in that, and he knew how to, like, he'll go to the bureaucrat, he will say this particular change, these are the 3 sections that will be impacted, the wording you change here, change your word here, change wording here, and give it to them. So for bureaucrats, nothing to do except if the logic is acceptable, just execute it. If you leave it to them, then you get into all kinds of other challenges. So Devang could see all that and then make those changes happen. So Devang was is outstanding. We all, just to give another example, we had once Vasundhara Raje. We were in a conference and we were told she is joining us. None of us knew her. So now we are worried. Here is, I think she was the minister, I don't know what she was at that time. So she walks in. So naturally we take her to the dais and Devang didn't know about her. He could still talk about 5 minutes on her. He came up with fantastic generic statements. Astrologers do, you read astrology every day, it turns out to be right. So those kind of words and language that he could use. And Vasundhara, we didn't even know that he doesn't know about me, but none of us knew about it. So he was a very multi-talented individual from that perspective. And I can tell hundreds of stories about Devang from that perspective. Sorry, the second one was about?
Technology and education. So like COEP and people like that. You said
COEP. Lot has to be done. Lot has been done. It has been one yardstick, if you say, compared, let's say, if IIT is the benchmark, COEP has come to that level. There are 70 PhD holders teaching now, and others, I don't know, some number, they're all doing PhD. So every professor either has a PhD or doing PhD. A large number of labs have come up in different departments as a starting point. Yesterday we saw all the different departments, yeah, but still a lot to be done, lot. I mean, it's a great beginning compared to where COEP was 10 years back or 20 years back. Compared to 50 years, there's a sea change, but it is nowhere near to what it should be. So, and it is going in the right direction. Yeah, government still is not ready to give up control. That's a big challenge. So, COEP has an autonomy status. They should give COEP a deemed university status and give full freedom to do what they want to do. That is not happening. It may take few years, but that's the direction COEP is moving in. And the
software as a service, the whole cloud thing, is that going to be the thing?
SaaS. I'm not a technology expert to give an answer from that perspective, but all I can say is India should become a major SaaS center. There's no question about it. But how to do what, there have been a number of things that are happening. NASSCOM also has done, come up with the white papers or strategy reports on such areas. But we're still not there in terms of what it should be. it's very natural that work has to flow to SaaS type of cloud type of environment. Like NetMagic is putting up, in Bombay, they're putting one more 300 crore data center, one more 300 crore data center in Delhi, one more in some Bangalore. So big major investments are happening on the back end side of it. It's up to us now as entrepreneurs to figure out how do you solve a particular problem and shift the entire work to India.
So thank you very much. In fact, I think this session has inspired me once again to revise my plan of creating a whole video series about personalities in that. In fact, I was talking to Mr. Rahul Bajaj here in Pune last year, and it was supposed to be a 20-minute interaction, and he spoke to us for almost 3 hours on his father Kamal Nayan Bajaj and Kamal Nayan Bajaj's experiences with Gandhiji in the Varda ashram. And I'm wondering, tomorrow if Rahulji is not there, there's hardly going to be anybody who authentically remembers Mahatma Gandhi as somebody beyond Ben Kingsley. Seriously. So, and Mr. Kohli, for instance, even for that matter, Mr. Murthy. So I think there is a value, as all of you have been saying. So let me try and see and find some time to put this video series together. So thank you very much, Harish bhai. It was an absolute pleasure.
So Harish and Ganesh, maybe there is government should do something. We've just spent $500 million building a statue to recognize the Sardar Patel, who brought India together after independence. And I did go and see it. After the government.
We never criticize government.
I actually have a suggestion that in this case the government should do something, because the Indian IT industry, let's face it, post the economic liberalization, it is the Indian IT industry that put India on the world map and got India the recognition, and to a large measure solved the balance of payments problem that we had in this country. So clearly the story of the Indian IT industry needs to be told, perhaps in the modern equivalent of a museum, perhaps a traditional museum and a modern equivalent of a museum, and maybe the government should do something for that. But it's been a delight listening to Ganesh, talking to Harish, and some of the interesting questions that you all asked, that brought out this story. Whenever we invite, we have a lot of younger people in our audience usually. The Indian entrepreneurial community is very young. But whenever we bring in a senior member, we're always worried, will the person speak to the audience in their language and so on. And amazing credit to Harish on how whatever he said is very much relevant to us today. It was not about, hey, this is what we did, hamare zamane mein aisa hota tha. This was really what is relevant. Just look at some of the gems I picked up, which are very relevant today. We all talk about entrepreneurship is hard today. There is so much of competition and so on. Did you get a sense that entrepreneurship was any easier in 1980s? No. So the entrepreneurship is always hard. It's not for the faint-hearted, but it's for the brave people. And they always have challenges. So it's not that today there are any more challenges than there were in the past. The challenges change. They're different. The value of intellectual property. The right to copy versus the copyright. I think it's great that today there's a far greater recognition of copyright in India. And you got to give credit to the people, in the industry that actually, at one point it seemed that we would say, yeah, why can't we copy the software? Who wants to pay for it? But there were people in the industry who said, no, don't do it. Don't do it. We've got to begin to respect the intellectual property, and India can benefit from that. There's a lot of startups here. If you all heard, startups do have budgets. Sometimes we talk to startups and say, well, I don't know how much money I need or how much money I'm going to spend. But yes, startups do have budgets. Young 29-year-olds like Harish Mehta can be patriotic. And it's great to see a lot of our younger entrepreneurs very, very patriotic, very passionate about what we can do for India. Even associations can have startup mentality. Clearly the startup, there's a startups, but there's also a startup mentality, an entrepreneurial culture, and even associations need that. You can challenge the government. If you don't like what government does, you've heard stories about how you can challenge the government. and managing the environment around you, managing the government, managing the the rules, regulations is very much a part of doing business. We can't complain about them. We've got to take them on and influence the change. And last but not the least, the India's upward movement will be led by entrepreneurship. So that's a great takeaway and a great final comment. How often do you recognize, and we get individuals, we recognize them for what they bring, they come up with a great new product, they build a great new company, but how often do you recognize the individual for building an industry? And that's really what Harish Mehta is for us, and it was a great listening to you, Harish, and thank you so much for sparing the time to share the story with us today. So give Harish a big hand.